let's get started. So today is the really key fundamental piece of something that's different between therapy and coaching. And I have brought my own little special bend to it because of being an art therapist. And I have an exercise for you to do. Before that, what I want to share with you is sort of a metaphor or a little story from Tara Brach. And Tara Brach talks about our ego as a spacesuit, and I think it's a really great metaphor, and that's what is going to be a foundation for our activity today. So essentially, when we're born, we are little beings. There is some wiring and genetic coding that we're already getting based on our parents' DNA and what they pass down to us, and also our states in utero. But essentially, we're all born into some sort of space that is toxic. I kind of hate the word toxic, but it's a well-known one. It's some sort of difficult space. No, or very, very few humans have evolved to not be wired and focused on struggle. And so our own parents come with their own intergenerational history. And so we're born into some kind of toxic space, regardless of what, the best intentions or whatever else. The world that we're born into, even if it's not our family, that there are plenty of issues in the greater world at large as well. So we're born into this toxic, difficult space of the world, and our ego essentially becomes our spacesuit. It's the thing that keeps us alive and surviving and coping well with what we're born into. And I know that I've mentioned it before in other videos about how that is inherently resilient and adaptive and incredible, especially when we're talking about adaptation strategies that were formed potentially pre-verbally, even, just by very young children. How we view and see the world in an unconscious way is early childhood stuff for the most part. That's when it starts. So we have our space that we've been born into. We have our ego suit, which is like, in a basic way, it's our personality. It's who we are. It's that we think that we're shy or that we're extroverted or introverted. These labels that we have created to explain who we are and how we relate to the world. And then inside of that is our actual being, like our being that is unchanged by the world, and that is just the core of who we are. And we forget, because we operate in the world that we do, that we are not our ego suit. Hi, Nikki, yes. So we forget that inside of us is something incredible and beautiful, and our own soul journey, like Nikki just said, absolutely. And we lose track of that, and we get caught up in our daily dramas, and we get caught up in survival. And so the basis of ontology, and which is the basis of transformational coaching, especially the version that I do, is who you're being in the present moment is what's getting the life that you're living. What choices you make, who you be, not necessarily what you do, but how you're operating in the world. And so when we start to clear some of those survival strategies, we get to connect with our truest self. And that also happens to be our most fulfilled and happiest and authentic self. And so the way to start exploring that is through this little exercise that I am going to lead you in. Now, my sketch is, the words are going to be backwards for you, but I will post a photograph in my group if you want to go ahead and play along at home, which I would love to see. So this Here's the space around. So if you're gonna take out a piece of paper, you don't have to use colors. You can just use a paper and a pen, and you're gonna have a lot of space around your ego suit. You're gonna draw a little figure of some kind, a little gingerbread. You can get fancy with it if you want to, of your ego suit. And then at the heart, you're gonna have a shape for who you're being. You can just draw a circle if the heart doesn't speak to you, but you're welcome to draw a little heart or draw a little circle for who you are at your core. I have worked with friends and folks who, we get to this part and they don't really know who they are at their core. Maybe they have a couple of ideas. It's great to, ask your friends and family to see if there's some help that someone can give you if you get lost. But first, you're going to look at this and you're going to draw your ego suit. You're going to draw a circle in the middle or a heart for your being. And then you get to write all the labels, very similar to what we did last time about labeling other people and labeling ourselves. We're looking at what are all the labels that you have for the space around you, the world at large, the family that you came into and your family of origin, your relationships, all the things that you see outside of yourself and how they affect you. Good, bad, ugly, it doesn't matter. Use whatever words you want because there's no judgment and there is no good or bad. There is only information. And then once you have sufficiently written all the labels that you can think of for the outside of you, start to write the labels for who you see yourself as. So in your ego suit, you're thinking about, some of you, if you're like me, you like personality tests and traits. So I am an INFJ and I am an Enneagram 4 primarily. And so maybe you put that. Maybe you put that you're compassionate. Maybe you put that you're avoidant. Maybe you put that you are highly sensitive or easily overwhelmed. You put any of your quote unquote negative labels as well. If you have internalized words that other people have taught you, like lazy or anything and everything, you're writing it down. You're getting really honest with yourself about what the labels are that are, mostly external, honestly, and just kind of who you think you are, what your personality profile is. Okay. And then most importantly, you're going to do that center at the core. And you may be a giving person, or you may be a person who gives so much that it hurts and you martyr yourself. And I would say that would be an ego suit. But it may also be true that who you're being at your core is a compassionate person, that you are a generous soul at your very core. You want to drill the being down to, I would say no more than 5 words. And if you feel inside of yourself when you're writing down the word a sense of contraction, then it's probably an ego suit thing. But if you see yourself as you feel that word and you think expansion, you think your most authenticity, a smile spreads across your face, that's probably a good indicator that it is part of who you are at your core. Now, there can be things about who you're being in the present moment that are not necessarily sunshine and roses. We're not going for spiritual bypassing here. We're going for honesty. And so, as you go through a journey with me or other transformational coaches, you might find that there are things about who you're being that you don't like and that you want to change. A thing for me, having a trauma history and a family with mental illness and some chaos and things, I still am very attached to safety and security and kind of knowing what's going to happen before it happens. It probably is an ego suit adaptation, it also could just be kind of part of who I am. But what I know about that is it's still part of who I'm being in the present that is getting me what I want. So the being part gets a little complicated. If you need help, we can, of course, have a consult call, or you can do this work in coaching. But it's really about looking at those core things that make you who you are. Over time, the idea is to clear all of the things that are not authentic to you. You get to make a choice about your ego suit and what things you want to keep and what things you want to get rid of. And ultimately, the most beautiful thing is it doesn't necessarily have to change who you are or much about what you do in the world. I can say that, like, over my own coaching journey, I think it was like 7 or 8 months, the facts of my life haven't changed a ton. I did go from working in a hospital to fully private practice instead of kind of a combination, but it hasn't changed. Like, I'm still married to the person I'm married to. I still have a daughter. I still make messes, whatever else. I have to clean up toys and do laundry. It's not that, like, it's so scary that everything is going to change around you. But it may change absolutely everything about how you feel about everything around you. And it may also change the way that you see everything around you. Because what I can tell you, and I alluded to this in my last Instagram post, is that the satisfaction that I have in my relationships, the satisfaction that I have in my day, the choices that I have in my day, all of those things are what has changed my life from a life that is pretty filled with overthinking and anxiety and existential dread to, like, fulfilled and fun and, not always easy, but ease-filled. And so this is super important work and super valuable work, and work that I didn't realize as a therapist could even happen. I just had no idea what was possible. And so that's my why for wanting to bring all of this work to you and start adding coaching, because I believe that therapy is super important and coaching can really be the, like, very next step and leap into a happier, more fulfilled life. And the other piece about that for my abundance and manifestation friends is that often with The Secret and with calling in the life that you want, you're doing these rituals, you're doing these things that are external and not realizing that a lot of this ego suit stuff and who you're being in the present moment is actually the barrier to creating the life that you want. And so you're tripping up and tripping up and tripping up, and it's painful AF, okay? So it does not have to be as painful. It just really doesn't. It does, however, take digging a little deeper at the roots of things from a completely different lens, not just necessarily putting it in a pretty little box, like I think therapy does sometimes, of like, okay, yes, you have attachment issues, you have childhood trauma, we know what that is, boop, let's put it on the shelf, we've labeled it, we're done. And the truth of the matter is that's not the end of the journey. I feel like a little bit like Oprah there, like, you get freedom and you get choice and you get a beautiful life. We all can just dig into life a little deeper, and then that is what gets us more freedom and more fulfillment and more happiness and all the good things. So if you are in my Facebook group, please show us your ego suit, show us who you're being. If you don't know, I've got some tips and tricks on how to figure that out as well. And if you're not in my Facebook group, come on in, join us. I am giving away for my birthday next week. I'm going to do one free group coaching call. So we can do any of these activities. You can talk about what you've gained and where you're confused or where you're stuck on some things in your life. That is just my love offering that I'm going to give in celebration of my birthday next week. So that's all I got for you today. I look forward to seeing your explorations on paper. I look forward to hearing from you. If you want to do the group coaching, reach out to me, send me a message, and we'll schedule. Okay, bye.